Think back to the last time you regretted something. Maybe it was a quick reply in a chat, a sharp word in an argument, or a hasty judgment about a new acquaintance. What if I told you our brain has a factory setting that constantly pushes us towards these kinds of mistakes? This video introduces a technique for analysing your initial reactions. Put simply, it's about how to hack that setting and stop operating on autopilot. Stay with us and you'll discover how one simple pause can fundamentally change your decisions, relationships, and even your career. To understand why we're so impulsive, we need to take a look inside our brains. Deep within, there's an ancient system responsible for our survival. It operates on an act first, think later principle. Thousands of years ago, this saved us from saber-toothed tigers. Today, that same system makes us react defensively to a critical email from our boss. The problem is, the modern world demands not instant reflexes, but well-considered decisions. And our task is to teach our ancient brain the new rules of the game. So let's get acquainted with our primary challenge. Though to be fair, it's not quite an enemy. It's more like an overzealous, very ancient assistant. Imagine a super powerful computer installed in your head, running almost constantly on autopilot. This autopilot is a real speed demon. It processes information in milliseconds. It sees a new person and instantly scans their clothes, hairstyle, and manner of speaking. And right away, without your conscious input, it delivers a ready verdict. Friend, foe, dangerous, safe. It does this based on all your past experiences, the movies you've watched, and the stereotypes it has absorbed from society. So why do we even have it? It's pure survival, a legacy from our distant ancestors. When something rustled in the bushes, they didn't have time for deep analysis. The one who immediately thought, "Tiger!" and ran, survived. The one who mused, maybe it's just the wind, risked becoming dinner. Our brain learned to save precious energy by creating these mental shortcuts. The problem is, today, the world has changed. Saber-toothed tigers are no longer lurking in the bushes, but our autopilot is still running on old programming. And now it sees a tiger in a short message from the boss without an emoji, or in a sideways glance from a stranger on the subway. It still screams, "Danger! React!" And we react. We get offended. We get angry. We jump to conclusions. Understanding how this internal autopilot works is the first step to learning how to seize control from it at the right moment. Now let's talk about the most well-known output of our brain's autopilot, the first impression. You've undoubtedly heard the saying, "You never get a second chance to make a first impression." And it's absolutely true. It's incredibly powerful, like superglue. It latches onto a person's image and becomes incredibly difficult to shake off. But this is where the big myth we're going to debunk today comes in. We're often taught to trust that initial gut feeling, that intuition. But let's be honest, the first impression is our brain's laziest tool. It doesn't actually analyse the person. It simply compares them to images from its internal database. Person in a sharp suit, straight into the serious reliable folder. Guy in a hoodie with tattoos, into the unreliable flighty folder. We know absolutely nothing about these people, yet our brain has already passed judgment. What's more, this impression is 50% about you, not the other person. Are you hungry? Everyone around you will seem irritating, in a good mood. Even a grumpy cashier might seem charming. A first impression is not an objective assessment. It's essentially a mirror reflecting you in that exact moment. So don't treat it as the ultimate truth, but rather as a raw, initial hypothesis. A hypothesis that still needs to be thoroughly tested. Okay, so how do we disengage this autopilot? Where do we even begin? The answer is ridiculously simple, but that's precisely its brilliance. The first, and most crucial step, is a conscious pause. It's just 1, 2, maybe 3 seconds, a tiny window of time between what happened, the stimulus, and how you react to it, your response. Imagine you have an invisible stop button in your mind. Someone cuts you off in traffic. your autopilot immediately screams, honk, yell. And right at that very instant, you need to hit that button. What does this achieve? This micro pause is a lifeline for your mind. It breaks the automatic chain of event, emotion, action. It creates a buffer zone, allowing your slow, deliberate brain to catch up with your fast, impulsive one. The simplest way to create this pause is to simply take one deep breath in and out. As you breathe, that initial wave of anger or resentment slightly recedes. That brief moment is enough to give you a choice rather than an automatic reaction. And the freedom of choice, that's our ultimate goal. So, we've hit the stop button and taken a breath. What's next? Well, next we switch modes from prosecutor to detective. A prosecutor's job is to quickly find the guilty party and press charges. A detective's job, however, is to impartially gather evidence and facts. At this stage, we need to become as objective as a video camera. Our goal is to separate the wheat from the chaff, to distinguish what actually happened from what we thought about it. Ask yourself a simple question. What exactly occurred? Not why did he treat me that way, but simply, what? For example, your colleague might say in a meeting, this proposal looks a bit raw. That's a fact. It's what a camera would capture. But thoughts like, he humiliated me, he thinks I'm incompetent, or he did that specifically to impress the boss. Those aren't facts. Those are your interpretations, your narratives. Try to describe the situation as if you're writing a police report, dryly and without emotion. For instance, at 3:05 p.m., Ivan Petrov uttered the phrase, or the message received at 10:20 a.m. consisted of 3 words. This simple technique helps diffuse the initial emotional intensity and allows you to look at the situation with a clear head. We're not drawing conclusions yet. We're simply gathering evidence. Now let's talk about one of the most insidious tricks our mind plays on us. We constantly mix up facts with our interpretations, and we do it so seamlessly and quickly that we don't even notice the switch. Our brain abhors uncertainty, so it instantly fills any information gaps with its own assumptions, making them appear to be facts. To illustrate this, let's consider a clear example. Fact: your friend hasn't responded to your text in 3 hours. That's an objective, measurable reality. But watch what your brain can do with that. Interpretation number 1. I'm not important to him. He's just ignoring me. Interpretation number 2. Maybe I said something wrong and upset him. Interpretation number 3. He's found new, more interesting friends. Can you feel the difference? The fact is singular, but the stories we conjure up are countless, and each of these stories triggers completely different emotions: hurt, anxiety, jealousy. Yet none of them are proven facts. They're just our assumptions, born from our fears and past experiences. Learning to clearly distinguish between what happened and what I think about it is a crucial skill. It's like turning on the light in a dark room and realizing that the terrifying monster in the corner is just an old coat on a hanger. All right, we've successfully learned to separate fact from fiction. Now it's time to become the script writer. By default, your brain tends to present you with the simplest, most obvious, or, more often than not, the most negative scenario. It's like a lazy writer who jots down the first idea that comes to mind and immediately deems it brilliant. Your job is to switch on what-if mode and brainstorm several alternative versions of what's happening. Your goal is to come up with at least 3 different explanations for a single fact. Let's go back to our friend who isn't replying to a message. The first scenario your brain feeds you is, he's ignoring me. All right, let's jot that down. Now, let's get creative. Version 2. His phone completely died and he's currently looking for a charger. Is that possible? Absolutely. Version 3. He's in an important meeting or driving and simply can't physically respond. Is that likely? Highly. Version 4. A bit more creative. He's been abducted by aliens. Just kidding, of course. But even that silly idea, shows there's an infinite number of possibilities. So what's the benefit of this exercise? It breaks the monopoly of negative interpretations. When you have only one, often negative scenario in your head, you tend to believe it. But when you have 3 or 4 possibilities, that negative scenario becomes just one of many options. Your anxiety and resentment immediately decrease because you realise that most likely things are much simpler and more mundane. Now let's delve a little deeper and talk about the bugs in our own internal software. Psychologists refer to these as cognitive biases. These are systematic errors in our thinking that distort our perception of reality. And one of the most significant of these bugs is confirmation bias. What exactly is it? It's our brain's tendency to seek out, interpret, and remember only the information that confirms our existing beliefs. We essentially become advocates for our initial ideas, rather than acting as impartial judges. Imagine you formed an initial impression that your new colleague is arrogant. Your brain then starts to act as a filter. It will notice every time the colleague fails to greet someone, speaks down to another, or doesn't smile. Yet your brain will completely ignore instances where that same colleague helped someone, responded politely, or shared a cookie. You're not seeking truth. You're seeking validation for your existing beliefs. This is a dangerous trap because it creates a vicious cycle. You believe something, find confirmation for it, believe it even more strongly, and the cycle continues indefinitely. To break free from this trap, you need to consciously ask yourself, what facts contradict my theory? Seeking not confirmation, but disconfirmation. That's the true hallmark of strong thinking. Another common cognitive bias our brain falls prey to is the halo effect. It's when a single positive trait about a person shines so brightly, it overshadows everything else, leading us to attribute other good qualities to them, even without any real basis. A classic example of the halo effect involves physical appearance. Studies have repeatedly shown that we subconsciously perceive attractive people as more intelligent, kinder, and more successful. We see an appealing face and our brain automatically fills in a whole host of positive characteristics. Conversely, if someone's appearance doesn't appeal to us, we tend to suspect them of having other flaws as well. This effect isn't limited to just looks. If we learn someone graduated from a prestigious university, we might automatically consider them an expert on every subject. If someone tells a really funny joke, we might decide they're also a reliable friend. We take one striking detail and build an entire persona around it, as if a single pillar could support an entire building. The danger of the halo effect is that it prevents us from seeing the real person. We're not interacting with them, but rather with our own idealized version of them. To avoid falling into this trap, it's crucial to evaluate a person's different qualities independently. Yes, he might be a brilliant specialist, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's a good team player. Yes, she might be incredibly charming, but that doesn't guarantee her honesty. Learn to separate the various aspects of a person, and you'll get a much more objective picture. There's another crucial factor we often overlook when analysing others: ourselves. Our own internal state acts as a powerful filter, colouring everything we see. Ignoring it is like trying to judge the colour of a painting without first removing your dark sunglasses. Think about a time when you were really hungry. At that moment, the smallest thing can set you off. A slight delay, someone's slow pace. Everything feels like a cosmic catastrophe. In psychology, there's even a term for this: hangry, a blend of hungry and angry. The same goes for fatigue. When you're sleep deprived, you simply lack the resources for patience and empathy. Your brain operates in power-saving mode, and any complex social task, like trying to understand someone else's perspective, feels overwhelming. So, it opts for the simplest path: irritation or apathy, a bad mood, stress, a headache. All these things distort our perception. Before drawing conclusions about someone or a situation, it's helpful to perform a quick self-check. Ask yourself, how am I feeling physically right now? What kind of mood am I in? Could my strong reaction be less about this person or situation and more about the fact that I'm just tired or hungry? Sometimes a simple sandwich or a 15-minute break can drastically change your entire perspective. So, we've gathered the facts, brainstormed alternative explanations, and checked our own emotional state. Now comes the most critical part, analysing everything and reaching a preliminary verdict. Our goal is to weigh all the evidence for and against and select the most probable explanation among our theories. Imagine you're a juror in a courtroom. You have witness testimonies, the facts, and several versions presented by the lawyers, your interpretations. Which one seems most plausible once you strip away emotions and conjecture? A principle known as Occam's razor is incredibly helpful here. It states, entities should not be multiplied without necessity. Put simply, the simplest explanation is often the correct one. Let's revisit our example with the colleague who called your proposal underdeveloped. Version 1. He wants to set me up and humiliate me. This is a rather complicated explanation. It suggests a cunning plan and hidden animosity on your colleague's part. Version 2. He genuinely believes the proposal needs more work and expressed his professional opinion. This is a much simpler and more probable explanation, requiring no complex conspiracy theories. Evaluate your versions on a scale of probability. What's more likely, that your friend secretly hates you and is ignoring you, or that their phone simply died? In 99% of cases, the answer will be obvious. This step helps shift your focus from dramatic fantasies to a realistic assessment of the situation. What do you do when, after all your analysis, you still find yourself lacking crucial information? You've gathered the facts, brainstormed theories, but none of them feel entirely convincing. At this point, our brain gets uneasy. It dislikes uncertainty and works hard to fill the void, pushing us to overthink, guess, or just jump to any conclusion. But this is precisely when you need to show true wisdom and admit, I don't know. And that's perfectly fine. Acknowledging your ignorance is a mark of strength, not weakness. It's far better than basing your decisions on the shaky ground of mere speculation. So, what's the sensible thing to do in such a situation? The answer is clear, yet we often overlook it. Simply ask. If a brief message from a colleague leaves you unsure about its tone, there's nothing easier than writing, "Hey, is everything all right? Your message seemed a bit sharp, and I just want to make sure I haven't misunderstood anything." If a loved one does something that bothers you, instead of spending hours stewing in your own thoughts, you can simply say, "When you do X, it makes me feel Y. Am I understanding correctly that you intended Z?" More often than not, it turns out there was no ill intent. Such a direct question can prevent 9 out of 10 conflicts that arise from misunderstandings and our own assumptions. Instead of trying to be a mind reader, just use your words. It's the most reliable way to get the information you need. Now let's take a look at how all this theory plays out in a practical, real-life example. Picture this, a situation almost everyone has encountered. You send a work question to a colleague, and their response is a short, almost terse message. Something like just, "Okay." No emojis, no hi, no please. What does our autopilot brain do? It immediately sounds the alarm. The first thought that flashes through your mind is, "Oh no, they're mad at me. I must have upset them. What did I do wrong?" Your mood instantly sours. You start replaying past conversations in your head, trying to pinpoint what you did wrong. Productivity drops because your thoughts are consumed by this imagined micro-conflict. Now, let's engage our technique. Hit the pause button and take a deep breath. Step 1. Gather the facts. What do we actually know? Fact. You received a message with one word. Okay. That's it. We have no other objective data. The thought that they're angry is so far just our own interpretation. Step 2. Brainstorm alternative explanations. Version 1. Negative. Yes, they really are angry. Version 2. Neutral. They're just very busy, responding on the fly, and don't have time for pleasantries. Version 3. Also neutral. That's simply their usual communication style, short and to the point. Version 4, positive. They fully agree and have already started working on the task, hence the quick reply. Step 3, analyze. Which version is the most probable, applying the principle of simplicity? Most likely, it's either the second or third. The scenario where they're angry requires making extra assumptions about you doing something wrong. Conclusion: there's no strong reason to panic or worry. You can calmly get back to work, and if doubts still linger, you can always just follow up with, "Is everything all right, as we discussed?" Simple, isn't it? This skill is especially crucial in the online world, where we spend an increasing amount of our time. Text-based communication is stripped of vital elements like intonation, facial expressions, and body language. We see only plain words on a screen, and our brains, trying to compensate for this lack of information, actively start to fill in the gaps. More often than not, they assume the worst. A period at the end of a sentence can be perceived as passive aggression. A response in all caps feels like shouting. The absence of an emoji? That must mean dissatisfaction. We become hypersensitive to punctuation, often forgetting that everyone has their own unique communication habits. This is precisely why online comment sections so often devolve into battlefields. Someone types an ambiguous phrase, another person perceives it as a personal insult, an angry tirade is fired back, and suddenly, two people who might have had a pleasant chat in real life are now ready to tear each other apart in the virtual world. So before you type out that angry comment or hit send on that hurt message, try our technique. Take a pause. Ask yourself, did I really understand what they meant? Reread their message once more. Try reading it with a different tone in your head, not accusatory, but neutral or even friendly. Come up with at least 2 alternative interpretations of their words. Maybe they just phrased their thought poorly. Perhaps they meant something entirely different. This simple mental exercise can save you a ton of stress and preserve good relationships. There's a crucial point worth highlighting. Every valuable tool or technique has its dark side. In the case of analysing situations and interactions, this danger is what's known as analytical paralysis. It's a state where you get so caught up in analysing, weighing every possible scenario, and digging for hidden meanings that you become utterly paralysed, unable to make a decision or take action. You might spend hours replaying a short conversation in your head. You analyse every glance, every word, every comma in a message. You construct elaborate, multi-layered theories about what the person really meant. You transform from a keen observer into a full-blown conspiracy theorist. It's essential to understand that the technique of analysing situations is a tool, not an end in itself. Its purpose is to help you filter out that initial, often irrational, and emotional reaction so you can make a more reasoned decision. But it should never become the decision itself. There's a fine but crucial line between useful analysis and endless, anxiety-inducing overthinking. How do you recognise it? Analysis should lead to a clear outcome, either a concrete action, for example, I decided to ask him directly, or acceptance of the situation. I concluded there's nothing to worry about and moved on. If you're just going around in circles, endlessly chewing over the same thoughts without any resolution, that's no longer analysis. That's mental chewing gum, and it's time to spit it out. Naturally, everything we're discussing won't work perfectly right out of the gate. It would be naive to think that watching a single video could instantly reprogram a brain that's been perfecting its automatic responses for millennia. This is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. Imagine you decide to build muscle. You wouldn't expect a six-pack after just one gym session, would you? The same principle applies here. The ability to consciously pause and analyse is a kind of mental muscle, and it needs consistent training. So where do you begin? Start small. Don't try to deploy this technique in the middle of a heated argument with your boss or a serious conflict with a loved one. That would be like trying to lift a 100-kilogram barbell without any prior preparation. Instead, pick something safe and low stakes. For example, observe your reactions to news headlines or to social media posts. When you see something that triggers an instant strong emotion, be it anger, indignation, or even joy, pause. Run that situation through our algorithm. What are the undeniable facts? What other interpretations are possible? Am I falling victim to a cognitive bias here? This is your personal mental gym. By training with these simple, everyday situations, you'll gradually strengthen your muscle of awareness. Then, when something truly important happens, that muscle will be primed and ready, ensuring it won't let you down. So, what happens when this practice becomes second nature? You'll start to notice some truly fascinating changes. At first, they'll be subtle, but eventually their impact will become undeniable. Perhaps the most profound shift you'll experience is a deep sense of inner calm. You'll find yourself far less easily rattled. In the past, a harsh word or a critical glance could sour your entire morning or afternoon. Now, however, a robust filter of your own analysis will stand between the event and your reaction. You'll realise that the issue probably isn't about you, but rather about the other person's mood or problems, or perhaps even your own fatigue. You'll also stop reacting to your own assumptions and imagined scenarios. Indeed, most of our anxieties are not a reaction to reality itself, but to the scary stories we tell ourselves. Once you learn to recognise these stories and not take them at face value, your reasons for anxiety will drastically decrease. It's much like how an experienced sailor views the waves. A beginner is terrified by every ripple, fearing their boat will capsize, but an experienced sailor remains calm. He understands the nature of waves, knows how to navigate his boat, and comprehends that most waves pose no real threat. You too will become the seasoned captain of your own emotional state, no longer easily thrown off course by a random wave. And looking even further ahead in the long run, the consistent application of this technique can transform not just your mood, but the entire trajectory of your life. That might sound like a bold claim, but let's consider the facts. Firstly, you'll start making better decisions. This holds particularly true for your finances. How much money has been spent on impulsive purchases, swayed by catchy advertising, or a fleeting, "I want it now"? Analysing your impulses helps you take a step back and ask yourself, do I truly need this? Or is this just an emotional whim? Secondly, your relationships with others will reach a new level. You'll be less easily offended, engage in fewer pointless arguments, and gain a deeper understanding of others' motivations. You'll learn to listen to understand, not just to reply. This will foster an atmosphere of trust and respect around you, inevitably leading to stronger, healthier connections, both with family and friends. Thirdly, this will directly impact your career. At work, we're constantly being evaluated. The ability to calmly receive feedback without taking it personally, but instead extracting value from it, is a hallmark of a true professional. The capacity to remain calm under pressure and make well-considered decisions is a leadership quality. You'll become a more effective, reliable, and valuable employee or leader. This isn't just a soft skill, it's a fundamental capability for success in the modern world. And here's the truly eye-opening conclusion from all of this. We are not controlled by events themselves, but by the stories we tell ourselves about those events. It's not what someone else said or did, but the meaning we assign to it in our own minds. And when you truly grasp this, something magical happens. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your own reality. You reclaim the remote control for your emotions. That co-worker who sent a terse message, maybe they were just spilling coffee on themselves at that very moment, while you'd already conjured an entire drama about your supposed feud. Realising this, that's your ultimate game changer. So to sum up, the impression analysis technique is a simple yet powerful algorithm. Pause, gather facts, explore alternatives, and make a reasoned conclusion. It's your personal shield against impulsive decisions and unnecessary conflicts. It's a skill that makes life more mindful and peaceful. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. If you found it helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. Now, a question for you. In what situations do first impressions most often trip you up? Is it at work, in your personal relationships, or perhaps online? Share your stories in the comments below. I'm really looking forward to reading them.